need to make some folders. Right click, create new folder, rename, click current folder, right click, create new folder, rename, and done. All right, not bad, just 700 more to go. Disgrace. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode number 17 of the Python project. Today's episode is all about getting our hands dirty with basic operating system commands that we can execute through Python. No matter where you are, basic OS commands will always come in handy. Work in an office? People will think you're a wizard. You're a programmer, Harry. Need to organize a ton of files on your computer? Wizard. Want to delete everything on your computer? Broke wizard. Help me defeat the YouTube algorithm? Like button. Let's do it. We'll need the following libraries. The first thing we can do is make a set of empty files, so let's begin by finding a directory we can work with. This folder is used for test purposes only, so make sure that when you're practicing, you navigate to a folder where you can mess around and where you won't have any issues. Once you start deleting files using the OS library, you have to make sure that you're not accidentally deleting files that you need. So I highly recommend running your script in a dummy folder before you use it on folders or files that you want to change. So we can make 10 text files like so. So we have a for loop where we'll loop through this 10 times, then we'll create the file name. In this case, it will be test underscore file underscore, and this is where we'll pass in the number of the loop that we're on. So it'll be something like test file 1, test file 2, etc. We'll get the complete path by joining our file directory with the file name that we just created. So this is what it'll look like. So here's our file directory. Here's the file name. Make sure to import OS. And the complete path will look like this. So here we had the directory, and this is the file we passed in. And by using os.path.join, it combines the file directory and file name to create one path. Then we'll open this file and write to it using the W parameter, W being right here. If you're confused as to how you can open a file that doesn't exist yet, I definitely was too the first time I learned about this. But with Python, if the file doesn't exist, it'll be created as long as you use the W or A parameter. Now, if you have an existing file and you write to it using W, it will completely write over what's currently in the file. If you don't want that, I suggest using the parameter A. It appends the data to the end of the file rather than overwriting it. So this is our current directory right now. We just have a few random files and folders right here, but if we run this, we now have these 10 text files, 0 through 9 for 10 in total, and they're all empty just like we wanted. If you wanted to make this into a different file format, the only thing we have to change is our extension. So let's delete all these. And here, let's say we wanted to make it 10 JSON files. We can just change this to JSON, run it again, and now we have 10 JSON files. If you wanted to rename a file, it's as easy as writing this. We use the method rename, and then we pass in the complete path of our old file, followed by the complete path of the new file that has a different name. Our old file is testfile1.json, and we want to rename that to blah blah blah.json. So right now, it's still testfile1. Let's see if this works. And we can see it has now become blah blah blah. Well, what if we wanted to move these files? So this is where shutil comes in, or as I like to call it, shutil. In this folder test1, I have a text file that I want to move to test2. We'll need the source path and the destination path. So the source is the actual file that you want to move. We can see here, it does include test.txt. However, if you wanted to move test1 as a whole folder into test2, then you would just have to remove this portion right here. Destination is our new folder, and we move the file by calling the move method from Shutil. So we can see the file is still in test1 and test2 is empty. But if we run this, test1 is now empty and test2 has our file. Alright, well, what about deleting a file? Not a problem, just remember to only do this with extreme caution. You want to triple check the path that you pass in just to make sure you're deleting exactly what you intend to delete. So we can change this path to that text file in test2. Let's confirm the file is still there, but if I were to run this, it is no longer there. Next are folders. To make a folder, it's even easier than making a file. Here we're making 100 folders, and we're using the make_dir method. Make_dir stands for make directory, and we're passing in the location where we want these folders to exist. Each of these folders will be called test folder 1, test folder 2, etc., all the way up to 100. So we can delete these JSON files to free up some space. If this works, we should have 100 folders. Alright, let's double check, starting at 0 and ends at 99. Perfect, we have our 100 folders. Now, if we want to delete a folder, we can use the rmdir method. So let's delete test folder 1. So we have test folder 1 right here. And if we run this, test folder 1 is gone. It's just 0, 2, 3, etc. If you haven't caught on already, this video is example after example so that you guys can get the best amount of practice with OS and Shutil. Now, what if we had a text file that had the names of all the folders that we wanted to create? Well, it's pretty easy. Let's begin by reading in the file names. So let's run this and see what we have. So each of these folders are going to be called Bill 1, Bill 2, Bill 3, up to Bill 12. So there should be 12 folders generated once we're done with this. Now we can loop through each of those file names and create the right folders. So all we're doing here is just passing in the name of the folders from our text file. And this should actually say folder name, because file names wouldn't make sense. These aren't files, these are folders that we want to create. And let's change that here. And the name of the folder will be passed in right here. So let's run this. And you can see we have each of our folders, Bill 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 12, which means we can read in any text file and use the contents of that file to create our folder names. So here's a fun project I was actually given today. My dad asked me to create 50 folders where each parent folder has 16 folders within it, and within each of those folders there were 3 subfolders. So here's what it would look like. We have folders 1 to 50, and within each of those folders is a set of folders labeled 2015 all the way to 2030. And remember, each of these will show up in folder 1, folder 2, folder 3, etc. Then within each of these year folders are 3 subfolders. So here's how I was able to do it. First, I made the dad folder. This is where everything will be housed. Then I make 50 folders within this. As we said earlier, the folders will be labeled folder 1, folder 2, etc. up to folder 50. Now within each of those folders, we have to make 15 folders labeled 2015 up to 2030. This code will look pretty familiar since I'm trying to use as many concepts as we covered earlier in the video so that you all will be able to complete something like this on your own. So we have the initial path, which is dad folder. I get the names of the folders within this directory. That's what list_dir does right here. Then I create a list of years from 2015 to 2031. Now we need to loop through each of these folders. For each folder, we'll create a list called year paths. Then the complete path will be our initial path, and the name of the folder that we're using. So this is what it will look like. We have our initial path, and in total folders, these are all the different folder names. So if we were to create a complete path and change it to folder 8, you can see that it took our initial path, the file name, and joined it all together to make one complete path. Year paths will then take this complete path and create a list of new directories with the year at the end of each directory, like this. So here are all of the year path directories. So we're in dad folder, we're using folder 8 for this example, but here we can see within folder 8, there are all of these folders, 2015, 2016, all the way up to 2030. Now for each of these directories, remember that these folders don't actually exist, so we have to make it. That's what we do here with os.makedir. We're passing in each of these paths and creating the folder for that year. Now within each year folder, we need to create 3 subfolders. This will be similar to how we did this earlier with the year folders. We'll define an empty list called subpaths. Then we can create a list of 3 items using the complete year path for each year folder. So this is what this will look like. So we can see for folder 8, year 2015, we have subfolders 1, 2, and 3. And this will happen for each of these years. Finally, we can create the actual subfolders using os.makedir once again in this last for loop. So let's run this script and see if it works. Okay, so we made our dad folder. We have 50 folders in here. Let's check folder 10. Okay, within folder 10 are folders 2015 up to 2030. Now let's check 2021. And we do have our subfolders 1, 2, and 3. Let's check one more. Folder 30. We have all of our years. Let's check 2029. And we have our 3 subfolders. So it looks like we were able to do it and we got everything we were looking for. There you go. Now you have the basic tools to get some serious work done using OS and Shutil. As always, help me destroy that YouTube algorithm by smashing the like button, and make sure to subscribe for more episodes of the Python Project. Disgrace.